Hello, this is Kyle Moore with MEC 330 Programming for Industry 4.0. Today we are working on the software version of this assignment, and we are using Sublime. I've got it already pulled up here. As usual, I've already rewritten the code to cut down on video time, but I've commented it as best as I could, and we're going to go through it now. This is, we're supposed to be creating a prompt that the user enters a series of PLC tags for an I/O, and then as each PLC tag is entered, a unique I/O address is given to the tag. As far as the format goes for the address, I've used the Siemens PLC address format. Let's go ahead and go through the code now. So these two functions here, they are basically just creating the tag format. So for this one, it's going to be I0.0, and then this one is going to be Q0.0 for the output. So I inputs, Q outputs. And then we are returning and not printing. So what this is going to do is it's not going to actually put anything on the screen, but it's going to store this variable into the function. That way we can call the function later and use it as a variable, because you can't, so I won't be able to use this in add variable anywhere else in the program because it's in the function. It's not allowed. So by using the return, I am storing this function or this variable into the function. That way when I call the function later, and I'll show you later on, but when I call the function later, I can add it to another variable and basically use this, but I have to call it something else. So anyway, so that's what the return does. And then so here we have temporary variables that are being used for the addressing format. All of the values are currently at 0. We are creating two empty dictionaries, one for the inputs, one for the outputs. We have an entry active tag, and we're creating it true. Then we're going to use that for the while loop. And then we're creating a message here, a text string, and then we're adding on to that here, and then we are printing this message here. And now we are using the entry active tag. So while entry active is true, so boom, true. We are creating a user input message. So this will pop up and it'll say, what would you like to call this I/O? And then it's going to wait for an input. So if the input is exit, it will quit the program. If the input is show, it will do this. And what this does is it basically prints each dictionary that we will be creating for the tag and I/O address key value pair. This is going to print a text string. This is going to be using the .items here to use the key value pair, and this is going to print each key value pair for the inputs, and this one is going to do the same thing for the outputs. Now at this point we haven't created anything, so if you type show, it's just not going to pop up with anything. And then here is another input. So once you input something other than exit or show, it's going to ask you another question. Is this an input or an output? And then it says select I for input and O for output. And then here is where we are calling the functions and putting them into a variable. So this one, we are putting the output address function up here. So this equals this. basically, because of the return. So when you call this address, you're taking that variable that's in the function and you're assigning it to another function. So that's what this one does as well, but for the inputs. And then here, if during this one you say exit, it'll quit. And then if it's here, we have two criteria for it's an if loop or if statement with two criteria, saying that if it's a capital O or a lowercase o, it'll still read it no matter what. And then it's going to say your output has been registered. And then right here is how we're adding the key value pairs to the dictionary. So this is going to add whatever for the first input, whatever you put in for the tag name, and then here it's going to put in the generated IO address that we get from the functions up here. So and then here, so basically what this is so for the PLC addresses, so let's say this one output, so it's going to be Q0.0 is going to be the first one. The next one, so once this has been done, it's going to add 1 to the second number, so it's going to be Q0.1. Now that's going to go all the way up to Q0.7, and now once this gets past 7, so if this is greater than 7, what it's going to do is it's going to reset this variable here, the Q_1. It's going to reset that back down to 0, and then the Q_0 is going to add 1. So now it's going to be Q1.0, and then it's going to go Q1. Blah 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 all the way to Q1.7, and then it'll repeat, and it'll Q2.0, so on and so forth. So that's basically what this is saying. And we'll go through that when we actually do the command prompt. This is literally the same thing as this one, except it's for the inputs. And then here, if you put show in the input-output input message prompt, then it's going to do the same thing as if you did show in the first one. It's going to print both dictionaries, basically. So that's it for that. So Sublime does not have a user input function. There's no way that we can test this out in Sublime itself. So we have to have another program, or we can use the command prompt. So I'm already in the folder. Now we're going to do this. I will go ahead and just do this here. All right, so what would you like to call this IO? So we're just going to say motor 1. And then this is an output. And then you can see here it says at any point type exit to end the program, at any point type show to view entries. But we'll do that in a minute. All right, so when I put O, it says your output has been registered. And then it goes back to the first input prompt to give more tags, basically. So we did motor 1. Let's do motor 2. This is also an output. Motor 3. This is also an output. And then we'll say cylinder 1. This is also an output. Cylinder 2, also an output. Cylinder 3, also an output. So that's 6. We need 9 total to show the variable manipulation. So let's see. We'll do LED. Oh no. Yeah, LED 1. This is an output. LED 2. This is an output. LED 3. This is an output. All right. Let's do a couple inputs just to show that does work. It's an input, and then stop input. All right. So now we're going to say, oh, well, things are going to be messed up a little bit. I hit a little bit too soon up here. So we'll see what this looks like. We'll say this is a input. Okay. So now we're going to say show. All right, here we go. So it didn't actually. So yeah. So this one here, this one is the only input that it actually put in, but that's fine. I did not do enough. Outputs. That's okay because we can actually add more right now. All right. So we only did. Oh yeah, because we did that. Okay. So LED 3. Boom. Output. Boom. Now we can hit show. Boom. What? Oh my gosh. Okay. LED 3. Boom. Output. Boom. There we go. There we go. Okay. So, that was user error. All right. So, here, we have our inputs, whatever, but it was assigned to I0.0. All right, and then here are all of our outputs that we put in. So motor 1, motor 2, motor 3, cylinder 1, 2, 3, LED 1, 2, 3. So we have I0.0, I0.1, .2, .3, .4, all the way to .7, and then there's that variable manipulation that I was talking about earlier. So once it gets past .7, it's going to put this back to .0, and it's going to increase this number. So basically, this is modules, this is port, or whatever you want to call it on there. Yeah, so there you go. And then you can continue to do this to add more if you so choose, or you can say exit, and it exits the program, and that basically erases everything that's in there, but that's okay. All right, thank you for watching.